You know what sounds beautiful? Minnesota. You know what else is beautiful? Knowing that the lottery has generated billions of dollars for our state. Money that has gone to help protect wildlife and habitat and improve our air and water quality. At the Minnesota Lottery, we're playing our part. You can too. Just say, I'm in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the story behind the stories. I'm Laura Schara, along with a very special guest who's also co-hosting with me this afternoon. Dad, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jose Jimenez. Now, Ron, they call me Ron Schara. Some people say Ron Skahara, but I'm used to it.
You answer to both.
But we're going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics, the ins and outs of wild turkeys, about them in Minnesota, and a little bit of history. But first, we have to thank some sponsors, Laura. We have Connecticut, Minnesota DNR, Minnesota Propane, Realtor Heather Womack. Thank you, Heather. Minnesota Lottery, and my favorite bank, Star Bank. We
also have two new sponsors for the Minnesota Bound podcast. We want to give a warm welcome to Oreo and Ritz to the podcast.
Good idea. So,
all right, before we get started talking turkeys, we should briefly cover that you just celebrated a birthday.
Well, I don't necessarily celebrate them much anymore. But
well, birthdays are always meant to be celebrated. So speaking of celebrating, you, which is very true to tradition, being that your birthday is April 23rd, you were turkey hunting out in South Dakota, which you have been doing that for the past, I won't even add up the years now, Dad. It's been a lot of years you've been out in South Dakota for your birthday.
About a half century.
Yes. As I always want to do and celebrate you, I posted a happy birthday note on Facebook on your behalf. And as I was looking at all the likes and all the comments coming in, I realized, I'm like, you know what, this might be a record of the number of likes I've ever received on my Facebook page. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, I received the most likes ever by posting a picture of you.
Well,
I mean, it stings a little bit.
That should put you in your place.
Yes, which is awesome. I'm just kidding about the stinging part. But I mean, you had 2,300 likes, 349 comments, 18 shares. All of those people wanting to wish you a happy birthday. So that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. The problem is, how do you say thanks to everybody, which is almost, for me, impossible with my limited knowledge of Facebook or anything else, how to respond. But it's very gratifying, almost very humbling. I'll just say that. It is humbling. And your mother also never ceases to remind me that for most of our married life, I have never been home for my birthday. And
no.
But I say, it's my birthday. I should be able to do what I want to do. And but for my two daughters, were never able to, when they were younger, celebrate my birthday with a cake and balloons and the whole bit. So you've kind of lost out there. But I noticed your I appreciate that post that you made, but I thought maybe a gift or something would show up, but nothing has yet.
Yes. Well, it's on its way, and it's a live gift.
It's in the mail.
Yes, and actually has fins, Dad, your gift. And
a stupid walleye for opener.
Yes. So you can hold that up for your next photo. Actually, I bought my dad, we'll get to turkey hunting very quickly here. I bought my dad koi fish for his birthday. And not many people know this, that my parents have a pond in there, a mini stream and pond that actually has a pump that circulates the water and keeps it clean right in their backyard. And he had some koi fish in the past, and he loved them. And unfortunately, they passed in a minor accident in the winter. So I am refurbishing those koi fish for the backyard, and they're kind of like your pets.
Yeah,
They're very friendly.
Yeah, they are. They're fun. They're much easier to catch than wild turkeys.
That's true. So speaking of wild turkeys, and I'll say briefly that for the past many years on your birthday, you have typically been in South Dakota turkey hunting for your birthday. You own the Turkey Track Club out there, which is a hunting outfitter that's been in business how many years now?
40.
40 years. Really cool spot, really cool destination, and many who are in the turkey hunting passion and hobby, I would say, are very familiar with South Dakota being a destination for turkey hunting. But Minnesota is now a destination for turkey.
Well, very interesting. The Turkey Camp, Turkey Track Club, started, like I said, 40 years ago. It might even be 45, and I've lost track. But the nucleus of that camp were Minnesotans who came out to South Dakota based on my encouraging them, because Minnesota had no turkeys, and no turkey season, obviously. And so I would come back and write in the Star Tribune about the joys of turkey hunting. So a lot of these guys that knew me, they said, well, take me out there. So that's how the camp really started. But the reason I give you that background is that that nucleus of Minnesota turkey hunters formed. We're so excited about turkeys and excited about why can't we have them in Minnesota, that they formed the First National Wild Turkey Federation chapter. We helped raise thousands of dollars for DNR's turkey trapping operation that was trapping a few wild birds and moving them around. Hence now today there's turkeys everywhere, including the streets of Edina. So it's done very well. But so Minnesota now is a very successful turkey hunting state. I think there were like 60,000 turkey hunters last year in Minnesota. That's a lot of turkey hunters.
That's impressive. And what year was it that turkey hunting was actually reinstated here in the state of Minnesota? Do we remember that?
Well, it was about 1982, I think, somewhere in there. You caught me off guard there, but I think it was about 1982, and they only allowed 400 permits, and I think roughly 100 birds or so were taken. That was it. Now they get thousands of birds taken. So as I've said before, the turkey story in Minnesota is a story of wildlife conservation, of how the bird was native at one time, disappeared in the late 1800s, and subsequent efforts to bring them back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s even, ended up failing. It was only when Minnesota worked a deal with the state of Missouri to trade ruffed grouse for wild turkeys. So I think it was like they traded 5 ruffed grouse for every 1 wild turkey. And so I think Minnesota got the better end of that deal. You don't hear much about ruffed grouse in Missouri, so maybe they didn't do so well. But that's how it all started with I don't know, 28 birds or something like that.
Interesting. And you even mentioned that at one point there was only 15 states in the entire country that had enough wild turkeys to allow hunting.
Right. And that was back in 20s and 30s and 40s. And today, just to emphasize, today, 49 of the 50 states have enough turkeys to warrant a turkey hunting season. So guess which one does not?
Have a turkey hunting season?
Yes.
This is a tough trivia question.
Hey,
California.
Beep.
All right. I don't know.
Alaska.
Oh, hello. Yeah, probably the weather. But I mean.
But some people don't realize that there's wild turkeys on some of the islands in Hawaii. And
yes,
in fact,
there
I've
is.
hunted them there. And that was a thrill. But no, California has a good turkey population. But yeah, all 49 states, but Alaska. And now somebody subsequently told me that Alaska does have a few turkeys, but they haven't had enough that they feel they could warrant a turkey season.
Interesting. Well, on my Axis deer hunting venture that I had in Hawaii a couple weeks ago, there were wild turkeys everywhere. Gobbling in the morning. You just saw them in so many places, and they are actually working right now with the the Hawaii, they don't call it the Department of Natural Resources. They have a game, I'm not remembering the name right now, but anyway, they are working with the state to reinstate hunting on the island of Lanai because there are so many wild turkeys there. But the locals were telling me that they do not eat them, wild turkeys. Oh,
I think they do. The native Hawaiian I was with, he deep fat fried one for me. It was delicious.
Of course.
Maybe we ought to take a break here. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what is the attraction, because you and your sister have one of the greatest thrills of my life was to be with you when you got your first turkey. And we'll talk about that. But also, I'm going to share with some folks a little of the turkey language that we can do. Should we do that?
Yeah, let's do that. But first, let's thank our newest sponsor, Nabisco.
Today is a day for adventure. Cub has all the Nabisco snacks you need to make sure adventure is delicious from start to finish. Life just tastes sweeter when you share Oreo cookies on the trail, when you crunch Ritz crackers at the campsite, or rock the boat with Ritz Cheese Crispers. Stop a Cub on the way to your adventure. The great outdoors is calling. Don't forget your snacks.
Do you really know what it costs to heat water at your home, cabin, or business? No? Well, we do. Based on data from the U.S. Department of Energy, the average annual savings for homes that heat their water with propane rather than electricity is $175. You can save energy and get 2.5 times as much hot water compared to the average electric water heater. Let's save energy and money with a cleaner, greener fuel. Propane, the right energy right now. Back to Turkey Talk. Dad, you have quite a few different calls that you use when you're out turkey hunting. And of course, there's probably a preference just based on, is where you're at, what you're really good at. How do you determine what is the right call to use when you're out turkey hunting?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, it takes a while to learn these things, and I've learned them over time, and that is sometimes, there's like 3 basic kind of calls. There's the mouth call, diaphragm call. A lot of people can't use that. They gag on it. It's very effective, although it's tough to be call quietly with it because you have to expel air. And then there's the box call, which is very easy to use, and it sounds like for the most part, most box calls sound like a hen yelp. You can do a few other little calls that a hen makes, but my favorite is a slate call or glass call. They call them just slate calls, but it does a remarkable selection of hen talk, which is what we're talking about here. And but part of it is not just the calling. Some of it's where you're calling from. Sometimes it's calling loud or not loud, and some people say, don't call too much. Some experts say, don't call too much. Well, that might be generally a good rule. But if you spend enough time in the woods, as I have, sometimes you run into a hen turkey that yaps for 30 seconds. And you go, well, if a real hen can do that, I can do it too sometimes. So, and the key here is if you get a gobble after you're using the box call, if you get a gobble to that box call, but you didn't hear anything with the slate, or you didn't hear anything with the diaphragm, that gobbler is telling you he's responding more to the box call. And so you start relying on that. For some reason, the sound of the box call resonates with him. Don't ask me why. He's a turkey. And so you need to learn that too. So you start using the call that's most effective to him. And there's a lot of other subtle things besides calling, but as I mentioned, where you're calling from, are you asking this gobbler to cross a river? They will, but it's just like you're asking for a barrier there. It makes it more different. Anyway, there's a lot of subtle things to hunting the bird and calling the bird.
Decoys? Now, there are too many decoys you can use. Should you keep it limited?
Right, decoys can be very effective, and they've been most of the time they're effective. A hen or a jake, usually, sometimes a strutting tom. Again, you have to see how the birds respond, But I've had decoys out, and I've had a flock of turkeys walk right by it and pay no attention. You have to understand, they're gobbling to attract attention and attract females. She's yelping to attract company or to answer a male. So if there's a bunch of hens and a few gobblers, and you're over here with a lone hen decoy or a couple hen decoys, and you're calling, and they walk by you at 50, 60, 70 yards, they're saying, hey, come on over, join us. We're not going over to you, but we have company. So little subtle things like that that really make turkey hunting so fascinating. I mean, you add it all up, the damn bird is, I like to say, is predictably unpredictable.
Isn't that the truth? Because there are so many people that, in their backyards, I've had turkeys come right up to my truck in a church parking lot, and I filmed one less than 1 foot away from my car. And, you go out into the woods and you're actively hunting. It is a whole different ballgame. And people probably assume it's really easy to harvest a bird. And it is not easy to harvest a bird. They're really difficult to hunt.
Do you remember the first bird you ever shot?
I do. And I was a little spoiled, I will say. Not spoiled. My first time I didn't know what to expect. I remember walking into the woods at 4 a.m. thinking this is crazy because nobody has a flashlight to see where we're going. And you just had to trust you that we were not going to run into a tree, I guess, or barbed wire, or any of those things. But what I do remember, which is the coolest part for me, is watching the wild world wake up. And from turkeys starting to gobble in the morning, birds chirping, the sunrise, that to me is the best part of turkey hunting. Is you don't get to see that very often because you are sitting in camouflage amongst the wild, so they are active and around you, and that's really cool. But I shot a bird on the very first morning I ever went out, ever. And that is not always how it's going to be. So
of course
it was great. It was great luck. It was a great shot. It was a great guide. Thank you, Dad. But since then, I realize I've been humbled a little bit more since then on how difficult it really is.
Well, it was special to me, too. Of course, as a father, you always want your daughters. And by the way, as I mentioned, I have 2 daughters, you and your sister, and I'm so grateful that both of you have evolved into the outdoor world or accepted it and followed some of my passions. But I remember sitting on that under a ponderosa pine there in the Black Hills, these gobblers, and we're in some trees about 50 yards away, gobbling up a storm, as you said. And at the right time, I started sounding in like a little hen, and actually they came down kind of early. I was shocked. One big gotom flew right down almost in front of you. It was on a sharp hill, too, but you made a heck of a great shot, rolled him over, and down the hill he went, deader than a doornail. I had to always run down to make sure they don't get up and go again, because that's happened. But he wasn't going anywhere, and you had your first turkey, and I made you carry it out. I remember that. You were whining about that.
It was very heavy. And I remember the initiation of getting some blood on my clothes, too. That was also part of it.
Of course.
Yes. They have to.
I still remember my first turkey, so there you go.
Yeah, where was your first turkey hunt?
Again, I met my first turkey in the Black Hills because I was working for the South Dakota Game and Fish Department. And so Art Richardson, the turkey biologist in the hills, invited me out in April in 1967. And he had me go up a hill to a saddle. He went around the other side, and he was trying to call these turkeys in. Well, they were actually left him, and they came across the saddle. And they were single file. It's the first turkeys I'd ever seen. So I didn't know what the gobbler was, but first one, second one, third one, fourth one, they all were walking by. I just held my fire, but suddenly the last one in line was blacker and bigger, and I go, that has to be the gobbler. And boom, I got him, and that was, I've been addicted ever since. So The bird is so well tuned for survival. Its eyes on each side of its head, and with just a slight swiveling of its head, it can see 360 degrees. Their hearing is phenomenal. I'm always impressed of how lightly you can call, and they can hear it. It seemed like, 500 yards away. They can hear that. I go, how do they ever hear that? Well, let me tell you, if you're a gobbler looking for a hen, if you're a hen looking for a gobbler, they've evolved a damn good hearing, because otherwise they may never connect. You know what I mean? And so, hence their ability to hear. And their eyesight is phenomenal, too. It's as good as an eagle. And they're not colorblind like a deer. But they're vulnerable if you don't move. If you're camouflaged and you got your face mask on and you don't move when they're there, you can get by with a lot. But if you move, you don't get by with much at all. And they can run and fly a lot faster than most people think. So it's just a bird built for survival. Well, all creatures are. They wouldn't be here.
That's true. And speaking of adapted to survival, I'd love to talk to you about the lay of the land and how that matters on where you're hunting and where you decide to go hunting. But before we get to that, I want to thank Connecticut Water for sponsoring the Minnesota Bound podcast. And, my dad and I can cover this one together because we both have been drinking Connecticut water. It's got to be over 10 years now.
I think so. I've been a Connecticut fan for longer than I can remember. But I remember it very vividly because where we lived, the water was smelt like
iron.
I can't even say what it smelled like.
Sulfur.
Sulfur's a nice word. But the rusty stain all over, and it just didn't taste good. And heard about Connecticut. I can't remember exactly how that came about, but Connecticut came to the house. They put this new system in, no electricity, takes very little salt, and then they put another special system in the kitchen sink, so I have a drinking water faucet, and it's been awesome ever since. No more stain, no more sulfur smells, as we say.
They're going to love this ad, Dad, with all your colorful commentary on the water. But they have saved the water. You have well water at your house, yes?
Yes.
And I do now, ladies and gentlemen, have my own drinking water system by Connecticut. I have the reverse osmosis drinking water system. I love it. I don't have to drive to my parents' house for a glass of water anymore, thank God. And it's great. It tastes great, and it allows me to drink more water, which is really important for your health. So thank you to Connecticut. And we also want to thank Realtor Heather Womack.
Hi, Minnesota Bound podcast listeners. I'm Realtor Heather Womack. As a young girl, I grew up in a duck blind hunting with my dad. I spent winters skiing at Highland Hills and Afton Alps and enjoyed summers hiking in all our beautiful parks. I grew up in Minnesota, moved to Europe for work, and returned to raise a family. Now my kids love the outdoor activities we have here. As a realtor, I've helped hundreds of folks buy their first home, sell the home they have, purchase a lake cabin, or start investing in Minnesota real estate. If you love adventure but need some new scenery, call me. My website is heatherwomackrealty.com. That's Heather Womack, WOMACK, realty.com.
Minnesota's wildlife management areas are a vast array of lands all across Minnesota. These 1,440 wildlife management areas are valued not only for wildlife, but also for Minnesota's outdoor recreation opportunities. They maintain hunter walking trails, plant food plots for wildlife, and develop acres and acres of prairie and grasslands. To find out more, go to mndnr.gov/WMAS. Okay, back to our turkey talk. Before we give some samples of your calling skills, Dad, talk about like the different terrains of when you choose to go turkey hunting. The topography matters, and the difference if you're choosing to hunt in flat ground versus ridges or hill country. Do you have a preference yourself?
Well, in Minnesota and the Black Hills, of course, it's pretty rugged terrain, and they even can be rolling terrain. But I've also hunted them in river bottoms, pretty flat ground. I think they're easier to predict if you're on rolling country because they like to follow the ridge tops. They like to roost on east-facing slopes. Interestingly, because then they greet the day. That's where the sun comes up; they can see it. So they tend to roost on east-facing slopes. So if you're looking for roost, I wouldn't look on the west side; I'd look on the east side. And you can tell if it's a roost or not. Big adult tree, and then if the ground is scattered with droppings, you know you're in the right spot. But just recently I hunted the river bottom, and it was difficult only because there was a lot of turkeys there. But the problem is there were like 28 turkeys there, and they were all in one bunch. And so, as I said before, they might answer you, but they don't need you. They don't need your company. They have all kinds of company. So they're saying, come on over, join the party.
You're on your own, sweetheart. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, there you go. And so that made it difficult. But that's also extenuating circumstances. That is, weather plays a factor. We've had this spring unseasonably cold weather, and I think that's so far put a little damper on the mating enthusiasm, and the flocks haven't busted up. So, because they'll break up, because every Tom wants his own girlfriends, and if they don't break up, then just going to be one or two Toms that have all the action. The rest of them are going to stand around. So they do break up, and that's a good thing because it's a survival thing again. But they so far this spring, as we're talking here. The breakup has been slower. I'll just put it that way.
I have a question about weather related. When I was axis deer hunting, the guide told me that when the winds get really high, the axis deer start gathering together for safety because obviously they can't hear as well. So that is what they've adapted to do. Do wild turkeys do the same type of thing?
Yes, they don't want to stand out in an open field and have their feathers ruffled all up, etc. So yeah, they'll go into draws and lower places to get somewhat out of the wind. And same as for them in the woods with the wind, everything's moving. So suddenly they can't tell was that coyote or was that a limb or so. Yeah, everybody gets nervous in the wind, deer as well as turkeys.
Very good. And I just had to do a quick little shout out. If you are new to turkey hunting and you're looking for more information on how to get started turkey hunting, or even if you are a turkey hunter and you want to learn more about really anything regarding turkey hunting in addition, the Minnesota DNR does a really great job with webinars and free classes that are available. I always like to throw that out there because it's a really great resource. It's free, and they are doing continuing education all year round. If it's turkey hunting, if it's walleye fishing, whatever it is. So that resource is available to you, and I just like to throw that out there because sometimes it's hard to not hard, but you have to really dig for information sometimes if you want to learn more about something such as turkey hunting if you don't have someone in your immediate family or grandfather or something that can teach you.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I had some help turkey hunting, getting to know what to do. But when I was in high school, I decided I was going to hunt deer with a bow and arrow before I'd ever go after one with a gun. But I knew nothing about it. I had no friends that bow hunted. And so my idea of bow hunting initially was kind of like I squirrel hunted. I just kind of snuck around the woods. And I'm still shocked at how many deer I got close to but never got just doing that. But that's not the way you would bow hunt for deer.
Because you're the deer whisperer.
Yeah, and only until I got to college and met some other bow hunters where they, put me in the right direction. So it's great to hear that we have people, if they have an interest in any kind of sport like that, they can get some help because that shortens the time, the learning curve, so to speak.
Of course. All right, we're going to get into some turkey calling.
Well, I've never been able to call ducks or geese, although I have a musical ability, and I don't know why. I guess I've just never taken the time to learn to talk to mallard ducks.
You know what? It's tricky. I just shot a segment with Corey Loeffler with DRC calls, and he gave me a lesson in goose calling, and we stayed with goose calling versus trying duck and goose because it's a whole different ballgame. But it is challenging. Mm-hmm. It really takes, practice like you're playing a trumpet. You played a trumpet, so you probably pick it up obviously way faster than I did. And I kind of got the hang of it, but you admire people who are really good at that.
Well, for some reason, I've always been able to call turkeys. I started with the diaphragm call. I don't have one here, but it's very similar. But my favorite call, well, there's one right now.
Yeah, and that's his cell phone, ladies and gentlemen. That is not him
just
calling
so you're wondering,
turkeys.
This is what a gobbler sounds like.
Yeah.
There you go.
Who's calling you? Don't try that in the woods. I'm just going to tell you. That's not going to work if your cell phone ring.
Sorry about that. Well, this is a live performance,
Yeah.
you can tell. But I've always been able to call turkeys. But like as I mentioned earlier, there's the slate call and the box call. And right now, the slate is my favorite. Now, if it's windy, as we mentioned, and I need to really reach out for loudness, then I'll go for the diaphragm call with my mouth because that's really loud. But the slate, I can make it fairly loud and rely on the turkey's great sense of hearing, or I can make it really soft. As sometimes hens just talk real soft, and the gobbler can hear that too. So, but the basic call of a hen turkey is what basically called a yelp, and it sounds something like this. What she's saying is, "Hey, I'm looking for company. I'm just yelping here." And then she also has what's called a putt, where she's excited and maybe a little, "Hey, come on, you guys." See, hens, the matriarch kind of rules the roost, frankly. So the putt kind of goes like this. Then she gets really excited. She goes. Now that'll get a gobbler really excited. Oh my gosh, that girl, she wants some company so bad. And then there's if she's contented, feeding, might something like this. Oh, life is good. But then, if she wants to get in, if there's a fight going on, and sometimes you use this because a gobbler is no different than if there's a fight going on. Boy, he wants to get over there and see what it's all about. You could even, so you go like a. Then you can go. So as they're flopping their wings against each other, so you can create a fight. And that's sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. But you're out there entertaining. You're entertaining yourself. I mean,
and if none of it works, just go to your cell phone again.
There you go.
Try that.
And now here's this is a box call. This is a little mini one, not the regular one I use. It's just smaller, but you can tell it sounds a little different. Now that's very high pitched, but that's a young hen, and it seems like gobblers. Maybe they don't like a young hen, but I think that higher pitch is easier for them to hear. It goes farther. So, and what you have to do is get the rhythm of what the hen. So she's yelping, just sort of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that.
And you mentioned that there's a guide in South Dakota that you go hunting with that has that box call chirping for long periods of time. Yeah.
Well, but I guess my point is you want to get the rhythm first. So you're not going, you want a hen is she's going. Well, the guide you're talking about, he would do this. Well, let me preface this. Some of the experts say, don't call too much. Don't call so much. Well, usually that's good advice. But if you've been in the woods long enough, you'll hear a hen that will just call for 30 seconds or more. And it just goes like, and you go, is she ever going to quit? Well, that seems to get on the nerve of a gobbler. He's like,
that would get on my nerves too, I'm going to be honest.
I know. Well, but she is saying, I'm serious. Get over here. She's the boss. She's the matriarch of the boss. So she's, get over here. Get over here. And it often works. So
Well, that's understandable after you explain it that way. She's like snapping her fingers.
exactly. So
And the diaphragm calls, do those take a lot of practice again because you are using...
Well, like I said, some people... let's see if I can grab one here
For
quick.
the record, my dad gave my sister and I diaphragm calls when we were young girls to practice in the house. And now that I'm older, I realize how probably extremely annoying that was for my mom to be listening to that for hours.
Well, it's the most difficult one to master. As I mentioned, some people gag on it, and so they just give up on it. You can hunt turkeys very successfully without being able to use a diaphragm call. But where it really comes in handy is if you've got your hands on your shotgun and you can't pick up your box call and move it. You can't pick up your slate because you're moving. And so you're ready to shoot, but you got to make a few more noises, but you can use the mouth call without using your hands. So you just go. Boom!
And that's the end of our podcast for today, ladies and gentlemen. Well, those are some great calling tips. Again, it all takes a little practice. Even I was playing around with the box call and the slate call, and you have to practice. You can't just assume that, it seems really easy watching you do it. And, I could go out there and have the chirping, sound quite as delicate and kind of perfect as it should really sound. So definitely practice at home before you're going out into the woods if you want to have the most success, yes?
Practice makes perfect.
That is true. But yeah, this is so much fun chatting with you today on one of your favorite passions, which is turkey hunting. And, for people who are actually interested in your turkey track club, it is still in business today and has
turkeytrackclub.com.
turkeytrackclub.com. And it's a great spot. It's obviously Black Hills of South Dakota. And they have a lot of turkeys there, but also the place where you have it, the food is good, and the camaraderie is great with your group and your guys.
We house them, feed them, and guide them.
Yes.
And
what more do you need?
Exactly. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. All right. Once again, thank you to Oreo and Ritz, also Connecticut, Minnesota DNR, Minnesota Propane, Realtor Heather Womack, Minnesota Lottery, and Star Bank. And last but not least, Dad, I'm going to let you say what you've been saying for 27 some years on Minnesota Bound. What's your most favorite line?
Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Schara, and
the co-host of the podcast, Laura Schara. I'm not going to say star of the show. That's always going to be Raven, no matter what.
There's only one star of the show.
That's right.
Hi there, Ron Schara here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.